In our last tutorial, we looked at combining arrays and removing duplicate items. I will include a link to that tutorial in the description, so you may want to view that one first. In that tutorial, we discovered that objects that contain the same information are not considered duplicates with the solution that we used. In this tutorial, we will tackle the problem of comparing objects. Welcome to another tutorial from All Things JavaScript, where we help bridge the gap between novice and expert. So let's take a look at the problem we encountered in the last tutorial. Here we have two arrays, and the original problem was just combining those arrays, comparing the values, eliminating duplicates. And we did that with this solution down here. Once we had a solution, we then added some objects. And so I created these objects up here. We added some objects, and when we added object 1 and object 2, they were considered duplicates, and one of them was removed. Now, the reason that's the case is because obj and obj2 reference the same object. That's what we've done here. We've created an object here, and then we create a second reference to that object here. And so they reference the same object, and so they're considered the same. However, obj and obj3, when they are included, like we've done now, in the same array, they are not considered duplicates, even though they have the same information. So let's look at that really quick. Just refresh this, and then open the console, and let's look at new array. And as you can see, we have two objects in this array. If I open it up, here's one object, here's a second object. They contain the same information, but they're considered different objects because they are different objects. And so therefore, they are not considered duplicates and removed. So what we want to look at is the process we would go through to compare objects, so that we can find objects that have the same information and then consider them as duplicates and then remove them. So now, comparing objects and those objects' class, and I put class in quotation marks, can be more complex, and there are a lot of approaches. Now, I'm going to keep this simple because it covers most of the situations, and I also want it to teach the concept that I'm trying to teach with comparing of objects. If you would like to explore this whole idea, this whole concept in more detail, you may want to take a look at my advanced topic course. We go into a lot of depth of objects in that course, and I'll provide a link with a coupon in the description section. So now, the way I want to approach solving this problem is I'm going to create a function that simply prepares the arrays to be compared using this same method. All right, so I'll continue to use this code we have here, but I'll create a function that will prepare the arrays for this code. Now, a lot of people may prefer to just create a function that takes care of both things at once. Many times I like to separate functionality. I think that's appropriate to do here, but all these other approaches are correct as well. So let me create this function. I'm going to call it prepare array, because like I said, what I'm going to do is prepare the array so that when we do this combining and create a set out of it, it will get rid of duplicates. And the way we're going to prepare the objects in the array is by converting them to a string. By converting them to a string, then they will be seen as the same, and duplicates will be removed. So let's look at how we would do that. So let me finish setting up my function here. I'm going to pass the arrays in to this function. So I want a variable to contain those. Now what I'm going to do is move through each element of the array, and if I find it's an object, I'm then going to convert it to a string. Otherwise, I will leave it as is. And so the end result will be a new array that has any objects that are a part of the original array converted to a string. So I'm going to use the map method of arrays to do that. So the end result will be returned. And then we want to take that array that is passed in, and then we want to map it to a new array. Map is a higher order function, and so we pass in a function that is going to act on each of those elements. Now I have tutorials on higher order functions, on map. If you need to review that information, I'll include links as well. Now, in order to act on the element, we first want to find out if it's an object. So here's how we do that. If type of LM is the element from the array, so it's going to cycle through every element in each of these arrays, and it's going to pass each element into the LM variable one at a time. And so we're going to check the type of LM. So if type of LM is equal to object, that means it's an object. Now this will differentiate from functions. The method we're going to use to convert the object to a string is using JSON.stringify. And functions, even though they're objects in JavaScript, cannot be represented in JSON. And so this will eliminate those if there were a function inside of here. That's one caveat I need to mention about this approach. Now that's not all we're going to have in this if statement. We also need to check and make sure that LM is not equal to null. Now why are we doing that? Why are we checking to see if it's not equal to null? Well, let me just pause for a minute and jump out here to the console. Let me show you something I think is important to understand. I'm going to create a simple object. Just use my name as a variable. And we'll set it equal to my name. So there's one object I've created. Now let me create another one. We'll use Jim as the variable. And I set that equal to null. Now let me show you what happens when we use type of. So if I do type of Steve, it returns object. If I use type of null, type of Jim, it returns object as well. Even though Jim is set to null, null is considered an object. Now, why? That's just one of the questions we don't ask about JavaScript. I'm not sure why null is considered an object, but it is. So that's why we include this part in the if statement here. We want to make sure that if it's a null value, we're not trying to convert it. So if those end up being true, then we return the new element, which is going to be JSON.stringify the existing element. That's what the new element will be that we return. Else, we simply return the element as is. So as these elements are returned, they'll be placed in a new array, and that new array will be returned. So that is how this is going to work. We'll convert the objects to a string that will allow us to find duplicates. Okay, so this is one approach. This happens to be an approach that I like. So now, how are we going to modify our solution down here so it takes into account this prepare array? Well, I'm just going to keep it simple, and we'll just add the call to the function as a part of what we're already doing. So I'm going to enter prepare array here, and we'll pass in that first array. Now, as I mentioned, it will go through that array, modify any objects, and then it will return an array. So the spread operator will still act on an array. So that's still going to work for us. Okay, so I'll do that with the second one as well. All right, now let's go ahead and save this and see what happens. I'm going to come out here, I will refresh, and then let's take a look at our new array and see if now we're eliminating an object. So as you can see, we only have the object once. And notice it's a string. It's a JSON string. That's how it is able to find that it was a duplicate. So what would be the process of converting it back? Well, we would do just the opposite of what we're doing in prepare array. For each one of those items that we want to convert back, at the time we want to convert them back, we just use JSON.parse. JSON.parse takes a string, converts it to a JavaScript object. JSON.stringify takes a JavaScript object and converts it to a JSON string. So that's how we would convert it back. So hopefully that helps. And hopefully you're able to apply the concept we talked about here to solve any sort of comparison problem that you're dealing with. It may not be exactly like what we dealt with here, but hopefully that will help you in the future. Now before we're done here, please hit the like button. It can help others find this tutorial. Also hit the bell button to be notified about new tutorials. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button or click the circle link on the left, the one with my face. I release a new tutorial each week. You can click the video link in the center to access another tutorial right away, or click the link on the right to visit my website, allthingsjavascript.com, for full courses and a complete list of tutorials. Thanks for watching.